Do you wish your business makes it to the top list of the most searched for business in the US and around the world? Or are you searching for halal compliant services and products online? Then Halal Finder is your online resource directory pointing you to the right places and products. Let's help you explore halal products and services of your choice as we manage many halal businesses across the world. Promote your business with halalfinder.com, the only plug you need to grow. Our services include business listing, digital marketing, branding strategy, SEO campaigns, crowdfunding, and humanitarian support. On our Compassion Corner, we offer crowdfunding of halal ventures and humanitarian services. In this section, you can make or receive donations, start donation campaign, and check existing donation campaigns. And by paying zakat and sadaqah to our Compassion platform on halalfinder.com, you have supported the poor, widows or widowers, orphans, and the likes around the world. Contact us at info@halalfinder.com or call +1 718 822 5555. Get started today at halalfinder.com.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My brothers and sisters in Islam and my brothers and sisters in humanity and my fellow peacemakers worldwide. I greet you and I salute you and I value the time that you will be spending watching this brief video and listening to the words that I will be using, and for the sake of my intention. I'm doing this so to express my views, express my positions, express my interests concerning the ongoing issues, conflict, deadly conflict in the Holy Land. Now, I am an African immigrant residing in the United States, in New York to be specific. One would ask, why would an African immigrant who lives in New York, is concerned about the conflict in the Middle East? Number one, he has no connection to the conflict. Number two, he is too small to make any dent or impact with this huge, huge conflict. And one, would be right to ask these questions or to, believe these two statements. However, let me clarify why those two may be misplaced. Number one, the conflict is not isolated from my own conflict. Number two, nobody in the world, regardless of one's background, is immune to the negative effect of the conflict in the Holy Land. It is the only conflict that has reached throughout the corners of the universe. And it is a conflict that affects every single person in the world, because the nature of the venue, the place, the location of the conflict makes it universal, regardless of one's geographic location or one's personal background or one's views and positions. The conflict in the Holy Land is a global conflict. It's a universal conflict, international conflict, and it affects us all. And there are ongoing global, unfortunately, occurrences that are all related and connected to the conflict in the Holy Land, to be specific, between the Israelis and the Palestinians. That is why, I am here, like thousands and millions of peacemakers worldwide who want nothing but to see the cessation of this conflict as quickly as the cessation can take place. Number two, in terms of, I am, in New York, I'm an immigrant, and therefore, my contribution to it is too small, too insignificant, and it cannot make any dent. That also is misplaced, because we have learned, from history until today, that the greatest impact, positively or negatively, in the world started from one person, one mind. And that mind, germinates and infected other minds, and it becomes a movement or a cause or a rallying point. And that is why all of us, regardless of who we are not insignificant to this. We are very significant. We're very important. And our positions, especially our public positions, can create either positive outcome or negative outcome. All of us. Based on that, I'm speaking from those points of corrections. I am important to the conflict, and my views are impactful to the conflict. I am not a neutral body. I'm not a third party. I am directly affected and connected to the conflict. Why am I saying this? As a Muslim, and as a U.S. citizen now, the number one ally to the state of Israel is none other than my newly adopted country of the United States of America. And taxpayers are paying billions of dollars in support of the operation and the existence of the state of Israel, as well as Palestinians. Therefore, my tax dollars are being used, in the region. Therefore, I am directly involved. That's number one. Number two, as a Muslim, my nation of birth, the Gambia, West Africa, is a member to the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, which consists of 57 member nations. These are nations that are either so-called Muslim nations or have a predominantly Muslim population or significant contribution to the Muslim world, either through the number of their citizens or some other metrics. But altogether, the membership to the Organization of Islamic Cooperation consists of 57 nations in the world. It is the second biggest intergovernmental body after United Nations. So with all these elements at play, I am therefore in a position to express my views and to express my positions and to make an effort to push for a peaceful resolution as quickly as feasible. I am not, a stranger to this issue, and I am not, bystander to this issue. Like, almost anybody else, this is an international issue that affects us all, and therefore the cessation of the conflict benefits us all. So I was, starting, this, this speech, highlighting those facts, so that people will not have misplaced, views about, me being here expressing my views concerning, the conflict. There are many other conflicts in the world, but none has the reach and the impact globally that the conflict between the Palestinians and the Israelis has, and therefore we are all partner to it, and since we are all victim to some of the negative activities, attributes that can be directly linked to the conflict. Now, let's go to the reason why I'm doing this, this speech. After the tragic event of September 11, 2001, here in New York City, where the world famous World Trade Center was bombed and thousands of people died and the building collapsed and the world changed forever. Many people, decided that they can no longer be silent in the midst of injustice, conflict, or difficult, relationships. And many people devise peace-building mechanism and unveil, peacemaking platforms, and strategize with their neighbors and colleagues and family members as loved ones, to be part of what heals, our, toxic relationships, what helps eliminate hatred among, the one human family, and how we can come together, to understand, where people are coming from, their priorities, and the values that they hold dearly. Whether we agree with them or not, whether we accept them or not, they're irrelevant. What was relevant to most people is that what happened on 9/11 should never, ever be allowed to happen anywhere in the world. And to do that, we have to have some preventive mechanism. And, many people, including myself, embark on finding ways in which we can heal the world and build bridges and create understanding and amplify, the love, interpersonal love, honor, respect, and dignified, interactions. That is what led us, to this platform that I'm using, which is the Muslims-Israel Dialogue. Muslims-Israel Dialogue, it's a platform that Muslim Media Corporation, through its efforts in pacifying, the, factions, in the world, especially factions within the Muslim world, had launched. So it's a program of Muslim Media Corporation called Muslims Israel Dialogue. Now, again, there are many, many, many programs dedicated to interfaith dialogues, interfaith programmings, but Muslims Israel Dialogue, if they're others, I don't know them, and they are very rare because, unfortunately, until today, the word Israel is taboo in the vast, part of the Muslim world. The word Israel, the word Zionism, the word State of Israel. These are, what the majority of Muslims still cannot come to terms with, because to them, these are terms that should not exist where it is existing now, because the State of Israel is a state that took over Palestine, therefore deny Palestinians their rightful land that they have called home for thousands of years. And with that attitude, until today, the majority of Muslims have problem, using the term Israel, Zionism, or the State of Israel. That is why we have decided that, we need to be part of a select groups of peacemakers, peace builders, so that we can harmonize, certain aspects of our existence that will perhaps lead to a peaceful coexistence. Every year for the past 7-8 years, we have been hosting what we call Muslims-Israel Dialogue Summit in New York City, where we bring, people from all walks of life, all backgrounds, to express as Muslims, how we feel about the ongoing conflict and what role we should play and what our views are and what we believe will be helpful in mediating, the relationship between Israelis and Palestinians, and also perhaps maybe to advocate, what the majority of the world citizens, both the Palestinians and others, have been calling for, which is a two-state solution, one next to the other, living in peace and harmony, and so that both the Israelis and the Palestinians, will no longer fight for survival, fight for legitimacy, or, fight for, safety and security of their personnel. That is, in a nutshell, why we are, embarking on this campaign, Muslims-Israel Dialogue. We have consistently been in communication with Muslim leaders through their diplomatic channels and advocating and expressing our views and giving suggestions as ordinary, peacemaking individuals as to, the best way to reconcile the difference and to effectuate, peaceful coexistence. So we have been consistently, doing that, and both the Muslim leaders as well as, the Israelis, the stakeholders, so that, we can no longer be bystanders to the ongoing conflict. Okay. That led us, to the launching of a recently launched campaign we call Star of David Declaration. Star of David Declaration. And, one would ask, what is the Star of David Declaration? The Star of David Declaration called for the realignment and readjustment of the political colonial borders in the surrounding the Holy Land. Specifically, we're asking the government of Egypt, the government of Syria, the government of Lebanon, the government of Jordan, and the government of Saudi Arabia, which makes it 5. The Star of David is 5 and these are 5 nations. That's why we target the Star of David. We're asking these 5 nations that are very, very relevant to whether there's a peace or not in the Holy Land to agree to have, realignment of borders so that a Palestinian, independent Palestinian state can be established immediately. And this may sound strange, but if one knows anything about the world history, one will quickly see the feasibility of it. Because one thing that has been constant throughout the history of mankind is border adjustment. That is constant. From the time we know until now, we have been consistently changing borders, from, colonialism, from empires, from different powers, from political dominance, from wars, from economic interests, from blocks, from regional powers, from continents, you name it. Border adjustment and border realignment has consistently been part of our history. And today, in 2023, the overwhelming majority of the national boundaries or national borders are the result of World War I and World War II. These borders that we have now demarcated, to define nations' boundaries, did not exist before World War I. Majority of world's nations that can define their borders came as a result of these two wars, including the Middle Eastern borders. The borders between so-called Israel and Syria, Israel and Lebanon, Israel and Jordan, did not exist before World War I. It was one region, multitude of diversity, very, very important, blessed region. Then after the wars, after colonialism, then borders began to be defined. And nations pretty much give birth. That's why today nations are celebrating independence. And a lot of these nations, their independence is less than 100 years old. Because the borders that they are now, claim to define their nations did not exist. When people realize this, then people will say, wait a minute, this is not a strange, advocacy. This is actually reasonable. This is doable. And what happened with these borders is that if you said, okay, we're creating the borders so that different ethnic groups, different religious groups, different races, then, will be defined. That's not the case. Most of these borders actually divide one people, one ethnic group, one language, one faith, and then you trace the border in between them, meaning that you come to somebody's house and then you said, as of now, we divide them. It's not one house, it's two houses. And the line that draws these two houses are traced in the middle. That's what happened everywhere, including in the Middle East. The Jordanians and the Palestinians, there's no such thing as Jordanian, Palestinian. They're all the same family. And a lot of them are Arabs, a lot of them Muslims. And they all trace their ethnicity, their culture, their heritage, everything in the same source, same place, same mechanism. But because of the political colonial borders, now some people say, oh, the Palestinian refugee in Jordan. I mean, listen to that. Palestinian refugee in Jordan. When did the Palestinian refugee in Jordan can be defined? Well, the colonial borders. And that's why we said it is time to do things differently in a very simplistic way and a very broadly way, because Jordanian, Palestinians, Lebanese, Syrians, Egyptians, these are mostly Arabs, mostly Muslims. And they're brothers and they're sisters. And they are bound. And they love one another. And you cannot say, oh, I care about the Jordanian, but I don't care about the Palestinians. I care about the Palestinians, but I care about the Jordan. Same people, divided by colonial borders. And that is why we said, because this conflict has been so deadly and so long, and it is affecting, the health and the wellness of all those directly affected, we have to find a new way, a new strategy, on top of many other, options that have been unveiled for the past 70 years. I think the most workable option to have, to effectuate two-state solution is border realignment, which is, by the way, same family. You're not taking land from a stranger. You just, reorganizing a family to say, you know what, we are family. We are together. And therefore, your progress and advancement is my progress and advancement. Your safety and security, are my safety and security. Because we're all Arabs, we're all Muslims, or we're all, Middle Eastern. We share so much in common. We share history, legacy, heritage. We share faith, and we share destiny. And for that, we can accommodate our brothers and sisters, whether they call them Palestinians or Jordanians or Lebanese or Syrians or Egyptians. Those are not attributes that should define us. What defines us is what we have in common, which supersedes the colonial terms. That is why we launched during the 2022 summit, Muslims-Israel Dialogue Summit, which took place in January. Even though it is 2022 summit, but it took place in January because December was busy. We launched this campaign that we call the Star of David Declaration, in front of so many leaders from all walks of life, from different faiths and backgrounds, who all embrace the idea of border realignment to accommodate family members. Again, we're not bringing strangers. This is not, predominantly Indian town. Now you're bringing, the Africans or the Chinese or the Europeans, vice versa. This is an Arab land. Now we want the Arab family to enjoy. And now this Arab family that the colonial legacy called Palestinians and Jordanians and Lebanese and Syrians, we said, no, those are not the terms that reflect, the common interest. They're Arabs, they're Muslims, they're Middle Eastern, they're family. Some of them are Christian, some of them are Muslims, some of them are others, some of them don't have faith. But one thing that they have is the shared history and pretty much shared culture and a shared heritage. And without a doubt, they share destiny. So we ask all of you, Muslims and non-Muslims, anybody who understands the importance and the impact of the ongoing conflict to join us and calling for the acceptance of the Star of David Declaration, which calls for Egypt, Syria, Lebanon, and Jordan, and Saudi Arabia to agree to border realignment so that there will be two-state solution in the Holy Land, State of Israel and the State of Palestine, coexisting side by side in love, peace, and harmony and progress. If we do that, we reunite the family, and then the Palestinians who are in jail will come out of jail so that their children will be able to enjoy the fruits that the beautiful Holy Land provides. And the Israelis who are fighting for survival and legitimacy in the Muslim world will also no longer do it. Then we build one family, one destiny, and who enjoys the Holy Land as the people of Abrahamic family. So we ask all of you to join us. And if you have any question or concern, or you want to give us your input, your views, you can email us at muslimsisraeldialogue@gmail.com. muslimsisraeldialogue@gmail.com. With that being said, I thank you so much for watching. I thank you so much for sharing this. And I thank you so much, for joining the Solidarity Movement. The Star of David Declaration, ratified in January 2023. God bless you, and thank you.
Do you wish your business makes it to the top list of the most searched for business in the US and around the world? Or are you searching for halal compliant services and products online? Then Halal Finder is your online resource directory, pointing you to the right places and products. Let's help you explore halal products and services of your choice as we manage many halal businesses across the world. Promote your business with halalfinder.com, the only plug you need to grow. Our services include business listing, digital marketing, branding strategy, SEO campaigns, crowdfunding, and humanitarian support. On our Compassion Corner,